I saw they had like a Bitcoin farmer in the game, and I said, all right, that's enough. And so maybe one day I'll play it again. Either way, I have to say that PUBG's ballistics made the game. Do you remember those shots that like Dr. Disrespect would take? Where he just like aimed the gun up and there'd be like some guy who's like literally smaller than my mouse on the screen right now, and he'd just shoot them, and like about every 3 months he'd post a clip of it hitting him. The legendary shots. Yes, exactly. Shroud would take these, like everybody would take these, right? It was so good. And the problem with Starfield is that there is no ballistics. Like anytime I see an enemy really far away, I like instinctively, I'm like, okay, aim like, you know, one head above them, right? No. You just aim at their head. Whoa, you aim at their head and then this happens.
Weapons. And those are not laser weapons, those are particle weapons.
Oh, wait a second.
Nah, man. Because that's all that's in the game.
This is what happens.
I also...
That's really impressive. What do you mean by ballistics? Ballistics is like this. Pretty simple idea. You shoot the bullet. Uzi, M16, and what's a sniper, a short sniper name? Fucking, I don't know, like, what's a, M2? Yeah, M2. Let's just actually do AWP, yeah, of course. Okay, so M16 is gonna go like this. AWP is gonna go like this. And Uzi is going to go like this. So, what this does is it creates a metagame of, like, how bullets will react to your individual combat situation. And this is in real life, too. Like, snipers in real life, legitimately, if you're making a very, very long distance shot, my understanding is that they have to some degree, account for the curvature of the Earth. This is real fucking science. So yes, I think it's very interesting in games whenever they have this. It might be annoying. Well, wind is obvious, right? Wind effects, like everything else is obvious, but like it goes to the extent of the curvature of the Earth.
Got comments saying, nah, man, I found better weapons down the line, you know, those Veyroon weapons. And those are not laser weapons, those are particle weapons. But just to emphasize the point I'm trying to make, let's count them. Let's include all of them, because after all, there's some logic to saying that that's the case.
What an absolute cock of a game, bro.
Let's include...
What a cock of a game. You see that? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is the... Like, whenever I look at a game, I'm not thinking about the kind of weapons are in the game. This game can have one weapon for all I care. But it better fucking work. Jesus.
Include all of them, because after all, there's some logic to saying that that's the case. The laser weapon perk that you can get does affect the laser part of the damage of the particle weapons. Laser weapon perk that you can get does affect the laser part of the damage.
It's a low accuracy weapon. What's the accuracy on the Orion? That's the gun he's using. I think it's about 65%, something like that. 62%. It's 45. Mine's 77%. That's insane. You understand, like, a 70% chance not occurring 4 times in a row, like earlier, is like actually astronomically low probability? That's insane.
Of the particle weapons. So let's include them all together.
How far away he is.
There are 2 particle weapon pistols, 1 particle weapon shotgun, and 1 particle weapon rifle. So that's 4. If you put the laser weapon and the particle weapon category together, even if you include the cutter and the arc welder, that's still only 9 weapons total. 9. For ballistic weapons...
A problem like with Halo, for example, you have really cool guns with Halo. Like, you've got your BR, but you've also got your Needler. Like, the Needler is the coolest weapon from Halo. regardless of how much damage it does, it is the coolest weapon from Halo. Starfield doesn't have a lot of those.
There's around 30, 3 times as many. There's a trend here.
Yeah, fuel
the
rod
ballistic
cannon,
weapon
Spartan
type
laser. Yeah.
has a lot of weapons with a lot of ammo types. There's a lot of options in it. And every other category is neglected, especially the melee category. The melee building in Starfield is just awful.
Well, there isn't melee building. There's not. And if you look at what the melee talents are, they're really bad. Like, they're not going to make up for it.
Like, it's much worse than even what they've done before in their previous games.
Yeah.
The weapon variety is again poor, with there
intro.
being less than 10 melee weapons in the game. There's no two-handed weapons that you can use. They're all stuck to 3-hit combos, 3-hit combo pause, 3-hit combo pause. The power attacks tied to these weapons suck. And not just compared to games like Skyrim that have a big emphasis on melee. They also suck even in comparison to Fallout, which also has guns. There was more strategy involved in Fallout Melee. One of the reasons is because the power attacks had a kind of lunging effect. You could cross distances and take advantage of an opening.
That was actually one of the really great things about Armored Core 6 is the some of the weapons, the melee weapons had a lunge effect. It actually was like a huge advantage that you would have if you could use that in like the right way. It was actually so cool.
And that's another problem. There's not as many openings in this game. Because in Fallout, you were...
People say nitpick the video. Somebody said that in chat. Let me explain something to you. Combat matters. And in my opinion, it matters more than anything else. So if the game doesn't play well, and it's not fun to actually play, then that's not a nitpick. That's like the main course of the game.
Constantly fighting animals. You were constantly fighting things that would engage you in melee combat. And that was the case even for the human enemies. Many of them used melee weapons as well. So there were a lot more opportunities for you to get good at engaging in melee combat.
Sure.
Figuring out when to block, when to step to one side or the other, when to use your power attack lunge to get in some damage. It wasn't, like, great. It wasn't spectacular. But it's a lot more than what we have in Starfield. In
And could we talk about the fact that this enemy right here, like, I was recently on a level 75 planet, and I was fighting an enemy, and it looked, the funny thing is about this enemy is it actually looked exactly the same as this enemy right here. Yeah, that's the crazy thing, is that it was a level, but it said 98 on it.
A lot more than what we have in Starfield. In Starfield, you're not engaging with alien monsters very often.
No.
In my experience, the most you're dealing with is other humans.
Yeah.
There's very few quests that will put you in front of alien monsters that will engage you in melee combat. There's some, but not nearly as many as you would in Fallout. So most of the time you're dealing with human enemies. Most of those human enemies
I played that show like Dark Souls.
are using guns. And even when you are facing an enemy that's also using a melee weapon...
Automatic. Oh, I never seen that one before.
The melee combat is so simplistic that the strategy is the same regardless of what you're doing. It's run up to the enemies and whack at them and hope you don't die in the attempt. Which can be a real pain if you're playing on the hardest difficulty. You have to understand, I'm not saying that the melee combat was a masterpiece in those Fallout games and previous Bethesda games, but it was a lot better than this. A lot of the times the enemies will run away from you in Starfield. They'll just start sprinting away from you. And I chase them, but I often can't hit them again while they're running away. And I would have been able to if I still had my lunge attack from Fallout. Another problem with the melee is that you can't modify it. There's no crafting associated with the melee weapons.
I'm going to be honest, like all this part, like I can't even really comment on it because I remember I got a really good melee weapon and I tried using it and it did basically no damage. And I thought to myself, okay, let's go back to the gun. And I never did melee again.
It's like the whole thing is an afterthought. There's no attack speed rating on the weapon to compare one to the other, and I think that might be because they all have the same attack speed. I'm not entirely sure, but they all seem to attack in the same way.
I don't know why, but just like the way he said that just sounded so sad.
And at that point, why even have different types? Why wouldn't you have the light knife weapons attack faster but do less damage, and then the heavier weapons attack more slowly but do more damage? This is space. Why isn't there some kind of energy-based melee weapon? Why isn't there some that work like a stun baton and do EM damage?
True.
I thought the weapon variety was bad for the laser weapons, but if it's true that all of the melee weapons have the same attack speed, then I was wrong. The melee weapons have it the worst. Because that means that there's not 9 melee weapons.
There's one.
There's one with different skins.
Yeah.
At that point, it doesn't matter if the dagger says it's different than the cutlass. If they...
I had this same thing happen. Like, I looted a sword, right? I looted an actual sword. Like a fucking... It was like some sort of like Japanese like sword, I think, right? And I used it, and it was like, wait, this is the same thing as the other one.
Swing at the same speed, and there's no other variables to them, then they're the same weapon, and one is just objectively better. Why don't we have two-handed melee weapons? Why don't we have high-technology shields to go with the one-handed weapons? Why does everything seem to be so underbaked and give off the impression that they intend to do something about it in future updates?
Well, I'm sure they'll fix this
Here's a
on
good
the
example.
second DLC.
Why can't we have an evil companion? Or at least...
Yeah, that's true. All my companions are pussies, and whenever I start killing innocent civilians, everybody runs away. I can't ever play the game, man. And then I try to get Sarah. I said, bitch, get the fuck out of here. And then she says, no, I'm not going to leave. You have to do my quest line. I don't want to fucking do your quest line. Get the fuck out of here. I don't care about your shit.
One that's not such a goody two-shoes. All of the major companions are the ones in Constellation. And those are the only ones you can run.
Remember what I said about how I described this game narrative with the word safe? Oh, pussy shit.
Let's list out their qualities for a second. You got Sarah, who likes being honest and being nice. You got Sam, who likes justice and being nice. You got Barrett, that likes it when you avoid confrontation and being nice. And then you have Andreja, who likes helping people and being a nice person. And that would be fine, but at the moment, Constellation is the only place where you can get these important companions. You can hire some randos from bars, but that's not the same. Why can't I have an evil companion join me as part of the Crimson Fleet questline? The game lets me join...
You should have an evil companion that occasionally turns on you and tries to kill you. Like, anytime that you're under half health, there's like a 1% chance that they'll start trying to shoot you.
The Crimson Fleet. It lets me be an evil bastard. It lets me take on quests to engage in piracy.
Patches.
But it doesn't give me a fleshed out companion to enjoy that with.
Make them bald.
And this next thing, this is the biggest problem I have with Starfield. This is the real one that bothers.
Bro, how do you miss that?
This is the biggest problem I have with Starfield.
Watch.
This is the real...
Are you fucking kidding me? How does that even happen? It went through his fucking arm. Is this the curvature of the earth like we were talking about?
That bothers me. One of the biggest appeals I have with Bethesda's previous RPGs is that I enjoy exploring.
Yeah.
The act of walking around and seeing things that catch your interest and walking over to those things. Like in Skyrim, seeing the temples carved into the mountainsides. I like walking around in these carefully crafted environments and letting the atmosphere wash over me.
Carefully crafted.
And much of the enjoyment from this kind of activity comes from the actual walking, from exploring, from physically moving from place to place. And in Starfield, that's gone. It's basically non-existent. Exploration in Starfield is done through menu navigation. You pull up your star chart menu, you pull up the system that you want to go to, and then you just fast travel there. Or even worse, you pull up...
Here's another thing, is like whenever you click the X to travel, you have to wait to click the X again to do the bar to travel to the planet. It's like just like a really, really small bit of friction that's fucking annoying. Just this little tiny, oh, it's so small, but it's so fucking annoying.
Your quest menu, and then have it directly send you to wherever the quest wants you to go. I have no idea what planets I visited to do the main quests or the side quests. I don't know what systems those planets were on. I don't know what they were close to or far away from.
Yeah.
And even if I touch down on a planet and decide to explore, there's nothing to explore.
That's not true. There's rocks. And after the rocks, there might be another rock. And then there could be a geographic anomaly. And you could scan it and get 20 experience.
Isn't anything there. The
Or
areas
a cave
on the
that has
planets
rocks
that you
in it.
visit will have some points of interest that seem to be handcrafted. But between them,
they're handcrafted and then multiplied. So, like, if you go to, like, 10 different camps, you've been to about 100 different camps.
is like 5 minutes of procedurally generated bullshit. There is just nothing satisfying about exploring in this way. You know, I saw a lot of people getting upset that you couldn't actually go across the whole planet.
I don't care about that.
You know,
I'm going to be honest. Like, yeah, it's kind of cheesy, but, like, I really don't think that's a big deal.
There were invisible walls at certain points, and you couldn't go any further past those points. And I just don't agree with that criticism, because why would you want to explore the whole planet if the whole planet is like this? There isn't anything there. If anything, I wish the planet was a lot less explorable. I wish the planet's explorable area, which was much smaller. You couldn't just land anywhere on the planet. You could land on specific areas, and these areas had more tailored content. Like, I don't want to go into a cave and find some more mineral resource nodes. I don't.
Especially whenever the mineral resources are just completely invalidated. That's another big problem, is that, like, if you have an outpost somewhere, you are generating literally hundreds of thousands of these resources at will. Yeah, or you just buy them, yeah.
I don't care. I don't want to see another research tower and you kill all the ecliptic mercenaries in the area and you go up the tower and...
Oh, I don't mind that. I like killing the guys. That's the fun part of the game.
Gives you a little bit of information on the planet's resources. I don't care. No.
Oh, this guy, I went to this exact same area, and then he's going to give you a quest, and you're going to have to go and I think deliver something. I forgot what it was exactly. And he's going to talk to you right here.
So I completely don't understand people that were upset that you couldn't explore the whole planet, because that wasn't the problem. The problem was that there
you have to kill the spacers.
wasn't anything on those planets that were worth exploring.
Yeah.
My impression of Starfield is that it needs a lot of work. I said this in the beginning, but all Bethesda RPGs are at their worst state when they first release. They get much better over time, after they've gotten all their patches,
mods,
DLCs, and mod support. I expect I'll enjoy it a lot more once all of these things